Cards 0-0 draw with Cleethorpes. Neither side really did enough to win the game.
No, it was a hard-fought game, wasn't it, against the side who've come up with the, as promoted sides do, with that bounce and kept a lot of players together from last season. Big 9 up front. I think we got 26, 27 goals last season. So always going to be a tough opening day. And it proved that. Difficult conditions, pitch was dry, windy, so it was always, going to be tough for both teams at times. I felt when we did have our spells, if you like, and we were able to put some passes together. We looked threatening without causing them too many problems. I thought their two big centre halves defended their box well, as did ours. So both teams probably cancelled each other out in terms of the threats. Obviously you could see where their threats came from with the big physical side, and looked to hit the 9 and feed off and work the long throw as we did at times. But if you can't win, you don't lose, and that's what we've done.
You had 9 debutants in the starting 11 and then brought another 2 off the bench. Is that probably going to be something early in the season where you're going to expect a bit of time for the new players you brought in to gel together?
Definitely, we said it midweek, didn't we, at the at the season launch, that you look higher up, and they get 6 months grace, don't they, when they sign a player for 50 million? They give them 6 months to acclimatise, if you like, and but yeah, it's we know, everyone knows we've had a big turnover of players, and that does take time to settle. But today, I felt at times we looked really solid. We looked really organised. Both set pieces against, I felt we defended really well. And you've got a young kid in goal as well, who's making his first start, who I thought was outstanding. But I felt we had some good performances today. It was a hard-fought game, both teams, and like I say, we build on it.
What did you make of the 2 drinks breaks? We were scratching our heads up.
It was about him, wasn't it? The referee needed the drink more than the players. The players didn't want it. He said to me before the game, we're going to have a drinks break on 22, and I was like, really? And I said, what for you? And he just laughed. But that's what he seemed to do most of the game, was just laugh. I don't know whether he was laughing out of embarrassment at times, but he had nothing to do with the results or the outcome, but it was needless for me. It's not like the sun's cracking the flags. I know historically, first game of the season, it is, but today it wasn't. There was actually a bit of rain before kick-off at about 2:30, so it actually happened both times in both halves when we had a bit of ascendancy, and that's what made it more frustrating, but we moved on.
The second half was very bitty, wasn't it? I mean, more happened in the second half than the first, but you just felt like the referee's whistle was going a lot and you couldn't really get into a flow.
Yeah, I think that's why he wanted the drinks break, because he never stopped blowing his whistle. But no, there wasn't much flow, and when we did have chances on the break, a little bit better decision making. I think James had a chance down the right where I felt he should have took it on instead of crossing early. Dante, when Enoch came on, I feel Dante should have played him a little bit earlier, and he's through in the middle of the goal. As it happened, we ended up getting Enoch on the same chance, but he was a little bit wider and the chance was harder, although he was unlucky with it. Other than that, there wasn't loads in it. A couple of attempts that they made good blocks from, one from Tweeds, which I was right behind, that was Nestling, and one from Callum. Callum actually had a great header in the first half. Their lad's got his head on and put it out. Should have been a corner, but the ref gave a goal kick. But other than that, there wasn't loads. Their big 9 had half a chance where he was wide from the angle, but I don't think either keepers been troubled too much.
You brought Enoch in. What's your thought process? You seem to pick up when both him and Callum were both on and towards the later stages of the game.
Yeah, well, we know Callum can play in those wide areas, and Enoch is definitely a striker. As soon as he came on, their 6 was all over him, trying to ruffle his feathers, trying to unsettle him, you know, leave him one on him, which is fine. That's what you do. That's what you have to do. That's what the best do. So, but you can see he's clean with both feet when he goes through. Finishing, you know, he can be really clinical, and you know, he's had spells in this division where he scored goals. So we're hoping that he catches on here. He's been in training a couple of times and obviously featured last weekend against Buxton. You know, so it'll take him a little bit of time to settle, and like always, you know, you need to get used to your players, and you know, the players that are working with each other, they need to work out each other's strengths and weaknesses, and the sooner that comes, the sooner I'll be, you know, we'll all be happy with it, because there's some good players.
Yeah. Is that going to be the key for Enoch then? Because, like I said, there are going to be centre-halves who are going to try and get under his skin, ruffle his feathers, and it can be frustrating at times. So is the key for him going to be to just try and block that out as best you can?
Yeah, just focus on his own game, focus on the ball, focus on the delivery, and you know, I'm sure if he does that, he's a big, strong lad. If he gets knocked over, chances are it's going to be a foul. You know, but I think he'd be important to us over the season.
You mentioned him before, but a quick word for Lee Balstall is a 17-year-old kid. I think it's probably his senior debut today. They put a lot on him, set pieces wise, but he seemed to deal with it really well and made a good solid save when needed.
Yeah, he dealt with everything, didn't he? His kicking, his back passes, his dead ball kicks. You know, he made the right decisions when he was coming for crosses to either claim them or punch them. I think it was the one in the second half you're talking about. Yeah, it was very wide angle, and he had to deal with it, and he dealt with it. You know, and credit to him, Preston have got a lot of faith in him, and you know, you can see why today, because he looks so assured, and as you just said, that probably is his senior debut, but he didn't look flummoxed at all for someone who's not long left school.
Yeah. Hence for the way on Tuesday. It's a relentless start to the season, goes Saturday, Tuesday most weeks, and now you're facing an early trip to the pre-season title favourites. How are you sort of seeing that one?
Exactly that. They've just had the pitch done, so it'll be a nice surface to play on. I think I've seen the results. They won today, I think. So they've obviously got off to a good start, and yeah, it'll be a test. They've got some really good players, probably players who can play a couple of levels up. But that's the test. That's what we're in this for, and that's to show what we're about as well. You know, not just be talking about opposition. We've got some good lads in there. We need to make sure everyone's right for Tuesday. A couple of knocks, but I'm hopeful everyone's all right. Scott Butler played on with a bit of a knock, which, you know, he's tough as old boots, Scott. But again, you know, I thought he had a good game. I thought he was one of a number who played well today. Yeah.
Obviously, I think you probably would have liked to have had David Morgan and Matty Waters both available. Are they probably going to be all right for Tuesday, do you think?
Matty Waters hasn't moved out of bed for a week. Yeah. He's been really sick, so he's probably not going to be right for Tuesday. Yeah. Morgs is carrying a little bit of a hamstring tendon issue, so each day that goes by, it's obviously improving, but it's got to be right, because the last thing we need is him to be out longer. But at the same time, with the squad being small, you know, everybody counts, and certainly someone of his quality and importance is always going to be a miss, especially in games like that where it's tight and that little bit of quality will come to it. But you know, one thing we don't want is for him to miss, you know, a long period, because you know we're rushing him into it. And, you know, we can't do that. He'll take it day by day, and hopefully he'll be right. And as soon as he is, you know, he's obviously an important player for us.